welcome to Mr. Randy's Wine and Spirits. I am Mr. Randy. Today we're going to be talking about a Scotch. This is Macnairs Lumreek 12-year blended malt Scotch whiskey, coming in at 46%. It is, unfortunately, only a 700 milliliter. So let's take a moment to talk about that kind of an issue. So 700 is usually what is used across the pond outside the States, because we use the most wonderful system ever created. But anyways, this is a blended malt. It is using sourced whiskeys from Speyside and Islay, and it's married with Glenallachie. That's interesting. So this is what they call a triple wood. Now, I do believe I've tried two other triple woods. The only one I can come up with off the top of my head at the moment is Grant's. That was stated as a triple wood. It's not stated, this one is not stated as a triple wood, but if you read, we'll show you. I'm sorry. Just go ahead and take a look at that. Now everything, I like how they give you a lot of the information. The best stuff is blended, malted, and bottled in Scotland by the Glenallachie Distillers. Aberlour. Now, get a little bit better look at this front. Get to just stamp over here. Natural color and non-chill filtered, so there's a lot of wind in this bottle. Now, this bottle was on sale, although I do believe it might be a discontinue sale. That part was not very clear, and no one could give me a solid answer on that. But let's go ahead and get started with a pour, shall we? It's got a nice, easy cork. Not your typical bottle shape. It's sort of, I don't know if you can quite get that. It's wider at the top than it is at the base. The shoulders come out a little bit more. Now, as you might have saw on the bottle, it did state this was a bronze, a copper bronze. I'm going to go ahead and agree, but just in case, Mr. Randy's handy-dandy whiskey color scale is going to tell him, yeah, copper, not quite that one. Yeah, we'll go with the copper bronze. So now, as you look, it's got a nice, beautiful color. That is a very beautiful color. Legs are a little bit slow to start. And I haven't noticed the good legs on this the entire time down to this part. So let's get it under the nose. It's very, very high, very punchy, almost borderline offensive. There's a few things to get into on that one, but we're going to jump back a moment and talk about the three woods, the triple wood. So the first one is going to be American oak. The second one is going to be sherry, and then French oak. Now, let me tell you about French oak. Maker's Mark 46. That's like the key thing to that bottle, or that expression, is that it is done in French oak. I did not like Maker's Mark 46. It was the second expression of Maker's that I've tried. I don't like the French oak. There's just something about it that just rubs me the wrong way. Now, this bottle, as I said, was on sale. Never really heard about it before. But they don't put bottles on sale at such a discount. This bottle normally would cost you just about $70 out the door. Mr. Randy brought it home for just under $43. Tell me what you think about that. That's a reduction in inventory for a good reason. Now, I don't know if it's because the bottle's not very popular, or maybe it's discontinued. Maybe they don't want it on their shelves anymore. Maybe the distributor, Glenallachie, doesn't have this line operating. I wasn't able to track down any of that information. If you have it, let me know. I would love to know. So on the nose, you're getting oak and butterscotch. A little, there's the ethanol, there's sickly sweet ethanol, like just stabs you. But then there's the oak. yeah, there's French oak, and I don't like that. There's some nuttiness. There's a very, the butterscotch is right there. It's like, it can't wait to get into first place. But then that French oak and the ethanol just kills it. It's not well balanced, that's for sure. An ABV of 46%. Maybe if this was 43, that might, kind of tame it down a little bit. I haven't tried watering it down, but I'll do that on the next and final review I have for this bottle. Let's go ahead and get on the palate. Right up front, you're getting sweet, oak, spice, the butterscotch is there, the nuttiness, and unfortunately, the French oak just has to rear its head in the background and just kind of destroy all that. I think if they would have removed the French cask or just leave it out, this would have been better. There is one other expression on the shelf which costs more than this, and I believe it's a 10-year, but it's a cask strength. So, sorry about that. Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing, except it's I believe it's a 10-year, and it's a cask strength. It may not be a 10. I do believe it's a 10-year. It definitely had cask strength, which is what shoved me a little to the side and picked this 12. And so let's go ahead and get one more. Completely forgot. We trailed off of that part where we were speaking about the 700 milliliters. That's only 50 milliliters. That's a shooter bottle worth of a difference. Now, I've found that some bottles that you can get in the States that are 700, and the very same expression sits right next to it as 750 milliliters. And the price difference between those two bottles, someone's got to explain that to me. Because why would you have to pay more for the 700 but not the 750? Now, I might be willing to accept that the 700 is actually a bottle that should be in circulation outside the States and somehow made its way in. That's the kind of way I'd like to think about it, because if right next to it you got the American 750, why do I have to pay more for the 700 for less? Did it cost them more to get that bottle here? Let me know in the comments. Let's get a finish on this. It's got a decent viscosity. You can see the legs are pretty thin. They're there. They're a little thin. That's definitely in line with the medium viscosity. The finish hits the roof of my mouth and like the gums. And it's very mellow, very light on the tip. That French oak is what I'm feeling in the back of the mouth. It's not a warmth. It's the French oak. Maybe I have something against the French oak. Perfect timing. So the finish, yeah, there's some sweet, much oak. There's a lot of oak and spice. And unfortunately, that French oak comes in and it really messes things up. So now the back is starting to warm up a little bit. Now we're getting that heat. The French oak was sort of giving me that, like, I don't know how to explain it. You just have that in the back. I don't like it. I don't like the Maker's Mark 46 either. So the finish is, like I said, the finish would be pretty, everything would be pretty good except for the French oak. I did say that earlier. So my score on this, unfortunately, is going to be a weak 3 out of 5. Now, I think that I'm going to hold that French oak very accountable here. That might be your thing. If you love that Maker's Mark French oak, you might like this. You might really like it. So 12 years, age stated. It's Speyside, Islay, and Glenallachie. It's a triple wood. American oak, sherry, and French oak. I think the other expression had different casks set up, but I didn't see anything on the bottle. But yet again, there was a lot of other factors that were pushing me towards the 12. So let's talk about my fair price on this. Mr. Randy paid just under $43 out the door. Normally, you would have to shell out 70 clams for this. Wow. Ain't no way. There's just no way I would pay $70 for that bottle. Even though I do still hold that $60 price ceiling point. But finally, when I get past that and I start going maybe 70, maybe 75, topping out at the 80. 80 is going to be the next, like, serious line in the sand. There's a lot of good bottles out there for between 60 and 80. So I'm going to put it under 40. I wouldn't pay $40 for this bottle. I definitely wouldn't. If you've tried it, tell me what you think. What would you pay for that? What kind of score would you put on it? So we already answered the question of would I buy this again? No, I would not, because naturally the French oak is going to be the first out, taking a couple of points off of this. If you take that out, I might consider it again, but not at $70. We're not there yet. Mr. Randy is definitely not there yet. Well, thanks for stopping by here at Mr. Randy's Wine and Spirits. I am Mr. Randy. You have a good one.